I'm Donald Newen, Director of Choral Activities for UCLA, conductor of the Angelus Chorale, and the Cathedral Choir at the Crystal Cathedral in Garden Grove. I've been conducting choral groups for nearly 50 years, and I formulated some concepts that seem to work, and I'd like to share them with you. And thank you for watching the video. The ideas and concepts that I would like to present in this video seem to have worked well with elementary, junior high, and high school students, and older adults in the big symphony choruses. They should be practical, usable, and natural. May I ask that as you study this video, you take the great ideas you formulated in the past from your own experiences and previous teachers and just set them on hold. Be completely open to absorb the ideas we will present, understand them, feel comfortable with them, and then when you're through, incorporate them with the ideas that you've been using previously and develop your own individual manner of conducting choral music. Says the movements and gestures of the conductor should be based on the same kind of predetermined how do you develop techniques for which performing artists strive. That means we should predetermine what we do, like the violinist predetermines what he or she does. They don't play just whatever comes to them, and the technique isn't just however they feel that day. It's learned skills that are, again, predetermined, planned in advance. And so we take this, not only our practicing of conducting, and let's just quickly ask ourselves, when's the last time I spent 2 hours practicing conducting? In silence. Just practicing conducting in silence. The violinist did it just yesterday, practicing the violin. We study scores, but that's only half of our job. They study music too, but they also practice. The brass players in the Chicago Symphony are still practicing whole notes every day. Whole notes. You see, we've studied conducting less than anything else in the music field. We've studied piano and voice and theory and form analysis and music history, all much more than we've studied conducting. Because anybody can conduct. So they say. So we have to make up for that once we're out of school and understand that, I'm not going to sing the rest of my life, I'm going to conduct. Commit today. I am going to become a phenomenal conductor. I'm limitless, I'm gifted, I'm going to do it. And my groups will become a true reflection of me. And when they do, they will sing beautifully and artistically and creatively. And they will move people and make an impact on people because they're a reflection of what I'm doing out there. And you will love it.
Video 1. Defining our core conducting technique. Section 1. The baton. When to use a baton. How to hold a baton. The best baton grip. Our home base arm position. and hand position without a baton. Section 2. Beat Pattern Basics. Defining precise, clear technique. Establishing a conducting zone. Our home base beat style. Section 3. Beat pattern demonstrations. The 2-beat pattern, the 3 and 4 beat patterns, 5, 6, and 12 beat patterns, and finally, subdivision.
A very valid question is whether or not to use a baton. And I'm aware that many choral conductors are uncomfortable using a baton simply because we don't need to use it so often in the choral rehearsal. I think we should ask ourselves, why use a baton? A baton should be a natural extension of the arm. The extension is there to better serve players and singers when more precise articulation is needed from the conductor. There would be, I could think, 3 occasions when we would use a baton. If the music is complex, complicated, with meter changes. Secondly, if the forces are large, 200 or 300 singers in a symphony orchestra. And third, if you're dealing with instrumentalists who are used to seeing a baton. So to better serve them, we would continue what they're used to. Granted, in the majority of choral rehearsals, a baton is not necessary. And therefore, I think many choral conductors, having not used them very often, don't feel comfortable with the baton. So we must practice and study with one frequently enough that we are comfortable to use it when it's needed, and that we never shy away from using it simply because we don't feel comfortable using one. Let the singers, the players, or the score dictate when we should use it, and then be ready to do it comfortably when the occasion demands. When considering the use of a baton, we need to acknowledge that there are 2 ways generally taught to hold the baton. One is where you hold the baton pointing straight forward with the conductor's palm facing the left, the thumb on top, conducting just like that. The other is where you turn the hand over, the wrist is level, parallel to the ground. The baton is now aiming on a slight angle about what you would say into the second violin section of an orchestra. Hand curved, middle of the baton right down here with the tie, like this. I prefer this for a number of reasons. One, this way, the movement of the wrist for the upbeat and the downbeat, which are the most important beats, is where the wrist is the most stiff. Here's where you get the most comfortable movement of the wrist. With this manner, for the upbeat and downbeat, you have that flexibility. The advocates of this say that it's easier for everybody to see because it's pointing straight out. I think that's true, but unnecessary. This is certainly visible to everybody. For one thing, they're not looking at the baton only, they're looking at me as a human being. My facial expression, my shoulders, my arms, everything. And they can see that just as clearly. Another major reason for this is the natural flow of the arm and the baton. And I want to underline that word natural. When we take an unnatural object, put it together with the body, and say it must become a natural extension of the arm, everything we must do must be based on that word. The length of this Mollard baton, which is ideal and lightweight, you're not even aware that it's in the hand, is about 14 inches long, similar in length than from the wrist to the elbow, and the elbow up to here. So 1/3, 2/3, 3/3, and the natural flow going out to that is not interrupted by the baton going straight out. It continues through that way. And the action, the movement of the arm and the baton becomes one far more easily than this type of a thing going out here. Now, granted, there are times when you may want to do that for a reason and then come back to what we might call our home base of conducting with this free, natural situation where the angles here, here, and here are similar. Now, to talk about the actual grip and how we hold the baton, it's another thing. We'll take the hand down and hold it to our side, shake it, and let it become loose. And if we were to touch the pads of the thumb and the first finger as the point to grip the baton, and take that point and slide it down the baton to where it meets the handle, just like that, and that is the grip, with the second finger just touching the handle, and the last two fingers curved but not touching the handle, and then drop it back down again. The hand ought to be the same as it was without the baton. Now, if we were to turn the baton over and push the baton, it would hit right there. You see, the baton is not touching the palm. There is space in here, and that's important. That's why a big handle baton is not good. If a big handle, if it's touching all the time, you're now limited in the flexibility of the baton. A little rise and curve of the hand and the fingers. You put the baton in it, same thing. Now the trick will be to bring the baton up and not destroy that natural curve by doing something strange with the hand in the process. In this type of formation of the baton relationship to the hand, when we hang it down, it will point over in front of the left foot. It won't be pointing straight out like this. The tendons, again, of the hand and arm will do this naturally. Then when we bring the baton up, we bring it as though we're inhaling in the process, leading with our elbow a little like a swimmer does, going over, leading with the elbow to swim, and we would do it like this. And the baton comes up last, slightly raised, 1 or 2 inches, the wrist level to the floor, fingers still curved, breathing. This natural flow is there. The middle of the baton, right down the thigh, and there we are. So from the hand being down here, to the baton in the hand naturally, to bringing it up, is all a very natural, comfortable thing. No foreign angles or moves of any kind. I'd like to mention 3 specific points concerning the position of the arm and the hand and the baton. 1, the elbow should be out with plenty of breathing room between the elbow and the rib cage, so it would be at 4 o'clock. 3 o'clock's too high, 5 or 6 o'clock, and it's like you're bound here and you don't have the freedom. But if at 4 o'clock, wind players and singers can feel, as they look at you, that there's expansion for breathing, and they'll feel similarly. Violin players will feel this kind of playing instead of this kind of playing. So 4 o'clock gives you freedom and gives them indirectly the same freedom. The baton should be aimed where the tip is about 1 inch or 2 higher than the handle in here. If it's pointing down, it's negative. If it's absolutely parallel, it's passive. If it's up 1 inch or 2, it says, hey, we're ready to do something. And the wrist, the third thing, the wrist is parallel to the ground. I'm going to place a quarter on my wrist and conduct through beat patterns, and the quarter should stay there with 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1. Now, it doesn't mean that we're supposed to stay that way all the time. Sometimes, like in the full staccato, we're turning to bounce and turning this way to bounce and back here. And sometimes we're just conducting like this because the music is calling for it, and we're just asking like this with great passion and intensity. But as home base, once again, from which we may depart as frequently as we like, as long as we return, that's where it should be.
Before talking about our hand position without a baton, let's take a moment to review the key points of our baton grip and the home base arm position. First, drop your hand to your side, shake it, and let it become loose. Touch the pads of the thumb and the first finger, and slide them down the shaft of the baton to where it meets the handle. The fingers should be relaxed and breathing, and if you turn your hand over, you will see that the baton's handle is floating. If you push the baton back towards the palm, you can see where it should touch. Drop your hand to your side. You will see that the tip of the baton is aimed toward the left foot. Now, maintain the same relaxed hand position as you lift your hand and the baton. The center of the baton should be aligned with the tie, while the tip of the baton is slightly raised. The hand is naturally rounded and the wrist is level. There is a natural flow from the shoulder to the tip of the baton. This is our home base arm position.
I'd like to talk just a minute about not using the baton. In the hand position with the baton, curved fingers, just like this. Now, if we take the baton away, that would look awkward to conduct in that manner without the baton. So we change the hand position like this. And you'll notice that in this position, the wrist is flexible, it's floating. Elbow, shoulder, wrist, fingers, all floating. And the finger position has the little finger and the first finger a little higher than these two fingers. Not awkwardly, just floating. In fact, I'll tell you what I usually tell my class. If you were to have a pet collie dog, a nice big dog, and you were to pet the dog, going over the back of, here's the dog's nose, here's the tail, and you go over the back of the head and down like this. You wouldn't do it like this or like this. You would do it gracefully like that, and your fingers would do exactly what mine are doing in conducting like this. And that will look graceful and enhance the music as far as the people seeing you and emulating you in their singing. Now, other things like this work, but they look awkward. Or something like this. It doesn't make it. This makes it. Now, if the music becomes forte marcato and you want to make a fist, so make a fist. But this is your home base style of conducting without the baton. Now, you see the little finger is up and the first finger. Now, when you take the baton, that comes down, they curve like this to continue the flow to the tip of the baton. If you watch conductors, and you have, you'll agree with me that almost every conductor looks different. Everybody does it a different way. The more conductors you see, the more varieties of beat patterns you see, and therefore a chorus and an orchestra with different conductors has to just see all this hodgepodge of different styles by different conductors. I believe that everybody should conduct the same, and the reason is because I have given all of my conducting energies to find out what works without fail consistently in any situation. 1 rehearsal or 10 rehearsals. What will work? In every aspect of conducting, what works for the professionals, what works for the college students, just what works. In everything we do, let's try and find the best way, the best person to study with, the best approach, the best concepts, and then we'll be pretty close, pretty close. In the discussion of beat patterns, we want to keep foremost in our mind that the beat should be easily discernible and understandable in the quickest glance by either a player or singer. Singers will be looking at us more continually than players. Players have less rehearsal and more notes to play, usually, and so they'll be looking at the music more and at the conductor less. And when they look at the conductor, it will be a quick glance and then back at the music. And in that quick glance, they must know exactly what they need to know from the beat they saw. And so that will be our goal in precise, clear conducting, is to do it well enough for an orchestra, and then it will be well enough for anybody. I'd like to talk about the zone within which we would like to conduct for, say, mezzo forte conducting. It would be from the eyes to the belt, and a little bit out from the shoulders, not too far. That would be the zone in which we would keep our movements. Up to the eyes, down to the belt. Up to the eyes, down to the belt. Now, the down to the belt part is very important so that the upbeat and the downbeat stand out clearly from beats 2 and 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So we have pushed the action that might be in some conducting up in the middle like this is, where all the movement is right in the area of, say, a basketball in here. We push that down so there's a rectangle down here above the belt of a few inches in which that action stays, and from which the upbeat and the downbeat are displayed so clearly. In thinking about the beat pattern, let's let it be a natural but clear beat pattern, expressive, but with no idiosyncrasies whatsoever. There needs to be a beat that actually reflects nothing but relaxation and clarity. And that is our home base beat, indicating nothing but relaxation and clarity. No curlicues, no bounces where they shouldn't be. And then if we establish that, where we get good at expressing nothing, then when the music calls for an exception to that, and we want something on the fourth beat, it will stand out from our home base, relaxed style of beating. Now, sometimes there'll be many beats in a row of marcato, and that's fine, and that stood out from what we were doing beforehand. But we don't want curlicues, and we don't want habits and idiosyncrasies. Check your conducting with a video and just examine your conducting and make sure that every single movement you make is dictated by the score and not by your own habits that you didn't even know you had. So if we begin with a 2-beat pattern, it's like a candy cane or an umbrella handle. Now, if it's like a letter U, the people can't understand which movement is 1 and which movement is 2. But immediately this clears all that up with a curve of 2, very small. Now, another effective 2-beat is just straight up and down. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Now, if the music is rolling along, beat a 2-beat pattern that's a figure 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, obviously, it will be difficult to determine which is 1 and which is 2. So you would not use that if there were any challenge to the players or singers as far as what beat they were looking for. This is only if there is no problem and you want a rolling Siciliano feel to the 6/8 or 12/8. In 3/4 and 4/4, very similar. The downbeat to the belt, keep everything low and up. The second beat and the third beat are low. So in the 3-beat pattern, slowly 1, 2, 3. And here, no habits that go 1, 2, and a big circle and 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. None of that stuff unless the music has lead-in notes at the end of the measure where that is appropriate. Otherwise, it's like a swing going out. 3, 2, 3, 1. 2, 3, 1. Or in the 4/4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, if the music went ta-ra-ra, ta-ra-ra-dee-ra-ra, ta-ra-ra-dee, and you have those lead-in notes, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, then that's okay. But those kind of things should be a reflection of the score for something special, and then it's like you're getting everybody's attention by doing it, rather than repeatedly doing something they condition themselves to ignore. Now in the 5 and 6 beat patterns, when you have more action down here, we must not only keep them low, but keep them subtle. Not mountains and valleys like this, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3. Subtle, 2, 3. Not 1, 2, 3. And in 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. Easy, rippling beats, and not jerky up and down beats. Because usually in 6/8, there are exceptions, but usually in 6/8, the music is flowing and there is line to be achieved. And so the look of the beat must enhance that factor in the music. Now in subdivision, you can come up with whatever you want to on this that works for you. But again, it must be clear and it must be relaxed if the music is that way. And usually in subdivision it is. Subdivision comes when the music is slowing down and becomes more tranquil, usually, not always. But in 4/4, for example, 1 and 2 and 3 and circle up. Why circle up? For 4 and, for line in the music. You could just say 4 and, but circle up keeps the motion of the music constant. Now in a subdivided 2, you usually do it in 4. But maybe doing it in 4 brings the reaction from the singers or players that it's too much of a 1, 2, 3, 4 feeling, where you really want 1 and 2 and 1 and 2, and you don't want a 4 feeling in there. Then I would take that 2-beat pattern that we had earlier that was like the candy cane or the umbrella handle and put a little circle at the bottom going each way. 1 and 2 and. Circle up, circle up, circle up, circle up. 1 and 2 and. Now you can also put a little stop or click where you say 1 and 2 and 1 and 2, which is related more to the 2-beat pattern that went 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1 and 2 and 1. These didn't come out of a conducting textbook. I just sat down and figured out what I thought would serve the players. And I think when we get too wide a variety of beats and saying they're all fine, it's just confusing to the players. Let's narrow the field down and let the music dictate the style of the beat, the size of the beat, and give them something they can count on.
This is a hard, by gosh, job. Really hard. You lose weight doing this job. You know? And you gotta want to have extra rehearsals. You gotta want to give people free voice lessons. You gotta love having something on a weekend where you'd rather go play golf or tennis, but you gotta rehearse. You gotta love that. You gotta love studying scores. When you sit down and study a score, somebody's gotta almost tear you away from it. You gotta love organizing rehearsals. You just have to love it. Because can you think of anything more wonderful on earth to do than music? You could say saving lives as a doctor. I don't think so. Look at all the people they see in between saving lives, that they're just sick. You got people coming in sick all day long, sick all day long, sick all day long. Who wants that? I get to come in and I get to make music every day. And if it's good, and it better be, then it's a circle. I'm feeding the people and they're feeding me. And I'm feeding the people and I could be coming down with the flu and I don't even know it during the rehearsal. I feel it on the way home again. And I'll tell the people, if you have any problems on the way to the rehearsal, you leave them out in the hallway. Pick them up on the way home. Don't bring it into the rehearsal. You don't expect me to, and I won't. Well, don't you either. This has got to be a positive, happening situation that we got in here every minute of every rehearsal.
As we're coming to the close of videotape number 1, I'd like to remind you that any of the techniques that I've suggested that may not seem comfortable to you at first will, if you do them repeatedly in practice, and that means 50, 60, 70 times. You know, if you've played tennis and then you take tennis lessons, your tennis gets worse before it gets better. But eventually it gets better than it ever would have without the lessons. Same thing with golf, same thing with anything. And so your muscles have to get acclimated to a whole nother way of being and doing and functioning. Give them time. Be patient with yourself. Don't feel that I can't do this. You can. The human being can do anything with enough practice.